Hello viewers, welcome to Q Nugget. It's been a while and today we are going to be covering annotations in TestNG, and it's good having you back around. And today I just want to share with us how to use some annotations in TestNG in case we don't cover all, but we'll cover at least some very important one today. And TestNG is a very good framework for testing, and is built by the same person that built the JUnit. Out of frustrations, it wasn't getting the right functionality he needed in JUnit. That was why he switched and to start this project called TestNG Generations. And you could find more information on the site, TestNG site. Go to TestNG and you'll find very good information. It's well explained. Just go towards the documentation and you'll find a lot of stuff there, how to use it and set it up. For this project, I've already set up my pump dependency already, so it includes TestNG dependency here. If you could see here, there's a TestNG dependency, and how you do that, we are not covering that today, and that's why I don't want to spend too much time on that. I've already set up my WebDriver, Selenium, and everything, TestNG, and I believe you should have done that as well. Then just add the dependency for TestNG there, TestNG dependency, which is this. You can go to MVN repository, you get the dependency there. So just add it to your pom.xml after creating your Maven project. I think I have a tutorial that covers how to create a Maven project. Create and add your dependency, then you can now start using TestNG straightforward. It's very straightforward. And TestNG, using TestNG, it could be used for unit testing, integration testing, end-to-end testing, UI testing as well. And after creating your Maven project and added your dependencies, the quick step to using annotation is you have to create a method. You create your method. We'll go to cover it. Create your method and write your logic. Then create an XML file, testng.xml file, which is this I've created. I won't cover that today, but I will show us how to do it. Then you run your tests from the testng.xml file. So annotation in TestNG are grouped into 3 sections. First, preconditions. Preconditions is anything that you want to happen before the actual test which you are carrying out. The actual test the condition which you are testing, anything you want to happen before the suit. Suit is the collection of all your test scripts. So before the suit, anything you want to happen, once you create the class, you annotate that method in the class before the suit, and that action will be carried out. Before test in the hierarchy of, let me cover this, in the hierarchy of annotations, this is the hierarchy of annotations. Suit, test, group, class, method is the last. So that means like the parent, subparent, inner parent, another inner parent, then come to the child. That's the way it is. So anything that you want to happen before your test, you will have to go on the before test method. Then before groups, that means you group your test in before the group, you group your test in certain way, and maybe sanity, integration, end-to-end, and so forth. And whatever you want to happen, any action, any logic, you put in that method and you annotate that method with before group. Before class, the same thing. This is a class. This is a class. Anything that I want to happen before this class fired on, before any action in this class fired on, I will have specified that in that. We will cover everything. Then before method. The method are the small chunks of your units, of your logics in your classes. So, and that's what we're going to cover. Then the condition to test. That is what the annotation test comes on. Let's say, for example, I'm testing a calculation to say hard number. the add number test case is going to be the one that we carry this test annotation when we get there, which is the condition. So we have precondition, whatever we want to happen before the actual test, and this is actual test, which is the condition itself, what we are testing for. We said that we're testing the negative value of it to make sure that it's correct, to assert it's correct, or we're testing that it's not correct. Then the post condition, that's after this condition is finished, after we've carried out this test, what will happen? Any action we want to fire before the suit closes off, we put it under the logic of a method there. Any action we want to fire before the test closes up, we put it there. Any action we want to fire before the group closes up, we put it there. Any action we want to fire before this class, e.g., we add the annotation. And any actions we want to fire before a method, after a method, a condition is finished, we add the after annotations. Then the test itself, which is this. So any method that carry the test, will cover everything practically, that carry the test annotations, there's still an extensive parameters you could use inside this test, like this. Sorry, once you open it, you could add each of these parameters value there. Sorry, you could add them in this. We'll come to that later. And put them on or off. You can enable your test. You can always run. Anytime you use the always run, that means this method. And you could use these parameters in any methods, any class or test. So we'll come to that. This test can provide a data, can run a data provided from a data provider. Then you could use this parameter data provider class, depends on group. That means if your test is depending on another group, depends on methods. If your test is depending on another method, description, you could use this parameter to describe what this test is all about. You could enable your test, expected exceptions. If your test is expecting an exception, you name it the group. You could use this to group your test. Invocation, count the invocation, priority, success percentage, single threaded timeout. You could write the timeout, the thread pool size. So now let's start. I started by creating a class in a package that I've already created. After you create your Maven just help. Maven is a build tool, it's a help to organize your files. So you have these 3 folders that have subfolder, but out with this Java. So under Java, I've already created all my packages that I need, added my Selenium, my base class, and everything. Then this is the test case package. So inside this test case package is where I created this class. It's an empty class here. This is a class I just created this for these examples. So what we have now is, to start with, I will start with before method, before class, before suit, so I will create a method. Let's say a method just a dummy method I will create so that you could see how the void something. I'll just name it something funny. Before. Let me just see. Before suit. So let's say, for example, I want something. This is logic. I'll just send a message out so that we can see some things. So let's say, for example, this method we want is suit to run. Let me just create different method so that I can use everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me say before test, before group, and before class, then before method. Yeah. So I want something action before. I'm just sending a method out before set. I just say start this action before set. So I'll just copy so that we can see how this thing works. Imagine this method that I want to carry out. Start this action before before test, before test. Start this action before group, then start this action before class, then before method. Start this action before method, then I'll create one more method, which is our condition. I'll create one more method, which is our conditions. Our condition is test case 1. Let me say test case 1. So this condition for test. So this is it. So to start with, before set, if I annotate, all you need to do is to annotate your class. Normally, in the right part, I'm just using it to bootstrap. The before set will not be in the same class where you're using this. Before set, you could create another class and use that before set in a. But I'm just using this as an example so that we see how it works. This before set, that means I've annotated this now. You could see it, import the from TestNG the annotation that it imports that. So this action will fire before the suit anything we put. So before test, I will annotate this again before test. You can see once you do add, it gives you what you want, so you can easily find what you want here in everything that comes out. So I'm looking for before test. So I'm doing before test here, which is it. See, so this will fire before my test according to hierarchy. Then I'm doing before group. Let me do before group. Before this group, this will fire. The next one is before class. Class is this class. I'm just using all this in this. So assuming this action, you want them to happen before this class, we start anything in this class, we start firing. So that means if you have chains of classes that are depending on each other, doing different separate works like configuration file and all those things, then that's how you use the annotation to fire up different actions that need to be carried out within them. So before class, before this class now, this is when I use this before class here, before class. Then before method. A method is this. This is a method. Any one of this is a method, a chunks of method. So is a method. I want this to happen before my method, and I will do it like this, before method. So I put the before method. Then this is my real test case conditions. So all I do is to add the annotation test on it. And this has become test case. You could see this added an arrow. You see, run your test. It added this arrow, but if you look at all this, there's no arrow there. It doesn't have anything to do with your test. Sorry, it doesn't run. This doesn't run, but fired actions before the test. This is the main test that is testing for. So for example, now let me run this. To run this, you can run it by right-clicking on the test. If you right-click on any of this, you will not see run annotation. It's just a class. But if you right-click on this, run test case, you can see. But if I right-click on this one, you can also run. It's just picking the class because it's not a test. So anything you annotate with your test, that's what runs. That's your test case. That is the test condition you're testing. So first, this is just I've used preconditions and the conditions. I've not done this. The condition for testing. This is what we've done here. This is the condition for testing. So this condition, so all these I can separate them separately in another class like this, and this one will still run. So it depends on the chain. So but all I'm just trying to see is how to use the annotations. And I don't know if I have still more time. Yeah, I've got. So now all we've used now is before, preconditions, and a conditions. Let's try run this test. Let's see what will happen. Dun 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 dun. Moment of truth. So you can see now, start this action before suit. It picks this first one. So if this action is configuration, get configuration file, this action start, you can see. Then before method, let me stop this. Yeah, it's passed already. So let me make more clearer here. Let us start this. Let me just say, just get configuration files. Yeah, before test, open this one, set driver. Before group, yeah, collate something, collate data, anything. Then before class itself, before class, open, let's say open application, sorry. So and before method here, let's say set up, then this is our condition to test. Let me run this test again. So we have this. I guess it's running. Yeah, so we could see get configuration file is picking before suit. So the action we open, set driver, open application, setup condition for testing, which is this. So and after testing, you say after testing the conditions, we have other methods. We have all the methods that need to fire after testing the conditions. We have this normal test case after, let's just call it something, after suit. Let me just see, after suit. Delete config, then what next? After test, tear down, tear down. Then we have after group, then we have after group here. After group, maybe after group, what happened? After group, do something, just what do we put there? After group, collect data, expose data, then after class, do something after class, after class, After class, do something. So what we have here, open application, close application, so close application. So then after class, then we have after method. So we can use this after method. After method, what we have, what does it do? Setup, tear down. So we are tear down. So this will be after method. Annotation, after method, after group, after group, after test, after test, and this after suit, after suit. So according to how we've explained before, is precondition, condition, then after, then post condition. So now we've checked the precondition, condition to test, which is a test, then post condition. Let's run it again and we see everything. We have to run it with, you can see amidst everything is this. That's got the arrow. That means is the test to run, that will run. Others can run as a test. So if you look at this information here, these are precondition: get configuration file, set driver, open application, setup, condition for testing, tear down, close application, tear down, then delete config. So with this, it picks everything in our conditions that we are testing. So in the real life, all of them will not be in this place because your test here, we have to be separated from other configurations, classes, and every other thing. So normally you could now take all this off into different classes that need to be used. And when you extend your classes, it will still work just like in this place. So I'm switching now to another class under my test cases still. I've created this class that I'll be using with Google applications. So this is supposed to be 30 now. So what this class is doing now, you can see every other class in this place, there's no before any other thing, but I use them in the base class here. If you look at my base class here, these are, you can see these parameters. We'll come to that later. Before class. That means I'm saying browser should open before my class, and you could see everything here. Then after my class, you tear down the browsers. So, and if you look at this test, this is all just my test case that will be in this class. I extended the basic test. So that's how the real practice would be, extended the base test. But in this place, I use it so that you could see how it works. So in this place, all I have in my test class is the test. I can duplicate all the tests now, but we first run the first one. This test, let me show you what it's going to perform. In Google search, there is an application. In Google search, I try to do 20 plus 10, which gives us 30. So this is what I'm performing manually, is what I want to perform with the automation using Selenium and TestNG. So this search field, if you right click on it like this and inspect element, you can get the name and you can use it. What's the name? I have the name as Q. So I'm using it here as Q. So I said web element, I instantiate a new web element class, which is search bus driver that find by name Q. Then I clear the test bus in case there's anything, then send this key, which is this integer numbers to calculate. Then I submitted it manually, like when you press enter. then get the results, display in calculation in the calculator, and look at it here. The result is displayed in this calculator. And if I go again and right click this inspect element, then I right click, I use this arrow, small arrow, to click this. You will be able to see my ID here as well for this, which is CWOS, and that's what I use. So what I'm saying is that I instantiated a new web element to get the ID. Then I set that the result, that this ID, whatever I submitted in this place, I get the test in is 30. To assert that 20 plus 10 is equal to 30. Then I display the result. Now you could see I use the test annotation. That means in this class, I can have as many tests which we will do as possible. And you will see there. And look at it, it's running. But because I've used my, I've added this, created my TestNG file into this place. So I want to run it via my testng.xml. So, and in your XML class, we are not dealing with this today. I just want to show you what is this is test case, which is our package name here. Test case is a package name here, dot the class we want to run. You could break it down into method and packages alone. So now if I right click on this, it should open. See, it should run and assert our result. That is fine. You open, you put in the result plus, you see, bam, down. Then what do we have? The result is 30 and it passed, green. First test case pass, green. Excellent. That's what I want to see. So now let's this addition. Let's do a multiplication. I will copy the same thing like this, but I'll say multiply numbers. Multiply numbers. Multiply number. You can see if I run this TestNG, this will not run. Let me run it so that you see. Until I use the test annotation on it before it can run to assert that is a test. And whatever is not annotated as a test will not run as a test. It will perform the action, but you will never see the result or pass in it. So it's running just one. You could see here, say, if I break it down, you could see what is running. Where is it? One, they say test case one of test. But now, let me do like this. We add a test annotation now in this. You can see it's having this arrow again. Look at this arrow again, and there's a. So two tests is going to run now. Now we want to multiply 20 times 20 times 10, and it should give us 200, isn't it? And that's our answer. We know the answer. So if it fails, you will see the result. So we have two test cases now. It should give us that we are running two test cases. Now I will right click on my testng.xml again, which is this, and should open the browser again, perform the first one. Good. Perform, you see it's changing. Test passed, 2 of 2 tests passed. The first test 30, the result is 200. The second test is second test. So let me separate it. The second test case. Second test case. So this is second test case now. So just to differentiate the answer, let's do again. I will separate. I will create another method. I'm just copying so that because I'm using the same thing, I'm just changing the method name since we are performing different mathematical operation in them just to save time. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not copying. You can see this one now. Let's say divide divide. So you can see until I put the annotation, you will see the arrow other side again. Annotating, you can see TestNG annotation. That is a test. So division, this is divide numbers. So what we have here now is divide numbers. 10 divided by 10, 20. So we have 20 divided by 10, so it's 2. So our answer should be 2 here. So I will go again, right click on my TestNG file, testng.xml, to run the test. See, now we have 3 tests passed. You see, test result 200, and you could see something now. This was the last test I used. Let me differentiate it and run it again. You see what I mean? This is the third, second, third. This is the third test case, which is multiplication. Yeah, but you could see it's showing the result that like is in the second position, which will lead us to the next attribute in the test cases that we'll be using. Let's go again. It's running. 2, 3, pass. If it fails, we'll do something that we could see 30 is the first test case, which is here, which is this one. Then second test case is supposed to give us 200 here, but it's running, printing it out as a, you see second test case as a second. Then third test case is now running in printing out as 2. That leads us to our first attribute that we'll be using inside TestNG annotation, which is priority. You see, default 0. It's like index. If I say priority is 1, if I say default 0, that means it won't pick. It's going to be the last one. 1, that means that's a first test case. Now this one will become 2. Once we print it out, you will know, you will see that it's going to be printed as 2. So 2. No, what did I do? 1, no, this is 2. Let me do it as they are in order of the there's 3, then this is 1. Priority of this will be 1. That means this one should run first. Priority, this one should run first. Down. So now in our result, you will see in this result, you could see that second test case came last. Here now I'm going to reorder them. It's just like ordering. So I'll run it from TestNG again. I run from here. Let's check the result. 0 of 3. So now you can see 30, second test case come first. If I reorder it now again, if I say this one should become 3, and this one should become 1, it should first run. And this one should become 2. Then rerun the test. You see our result. You see, here's rearrange it just like the first, third, like that. So now that leads us to a second. Let me rearrange it back. Let me rearrange back to 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let me create one more method. I'll add one more test. That's I'm testing. Now let me test for square. Let me test for another thing. I'm going to test here. So word in calculation. test for minus, subtract, 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 subtraction, subtract number, sorry. So this, let me see, so 450 minus minus 10, so it should give us 40 here, which is going to be 40. That is Z. So now let's add it to our test case. Test. I have this. So priority of this should be 4. Priority should be 4. 4. So now we've added 4 test cases. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll run it from the TestNG again. Mind you, TestNG is used to capture all your test suits. Any tests in your suit, it will run them according to how you prioritize them and according to how you add them. But today we're not covering TestNG.sms, so I will create another separate class for that, tutorial for that. Excellent. You can see we have 4 now, 30, 200, 240 result. So you can see, so fourth, let me change this. Yeah, which is correct. So that's the order in which they will run. If you look at this order, the order is good. So we've used priority now. Now let's use another another parameters inside attribute inside test. This now, let's use the enable element. Enable is used to enable a test. You can turn off and on any test. So this we're using enable this test one false. So we enable the first one, second one too. So this number we are disabling now. We've disabled number 3 and number 1. Let's disable number 3 and number 1. Enable false. That means it will skip this test, number 1 and number 3. Let's run it again. Excellent. You see, 2 of 2. It skipped the test. You see, we have 2 results here, which is correct. So it's telling us 2 of 2. So I will enable the first one again to true. So I'm turning it on again, true. It's a Boolean. So that covers we've covered 2 parameters or attributes in test that we can use inside test annotations, priority and enable. Always run. That's an always run. This false now. Let me turn this off and use always run true. I've turned this off, enable, but I put always run. Let me see if it's going to run, if this test is going to run. Yeah, no. So that means it will not work like this, but it can work in TestNG, but we won't cover that today. So you can always put always run. This applies to a method as well. They could be used inside any of this method. Let's say I always want something inside this place to always run. I can just do always run like this, true. You can see, I'll put it here. So that means if I want to set my driver to always be on, it will always run it. So I will take it out of this place. Let's move on. I run my test case again. TestNG is very swift. That's why I love it compared to JUnit, but they are so powerful, both of them, which is very good. Yeah, 2 of 2. So what did I do? Enable force. Okay, true. That's what I'm going to test case. Yeah. Let me enable all of them now. Let me select the other one. Yeah. So continue. Where am I now? Yeah, let me check my notes. So this is where we are. Always on data provider. I will not touch. I will show you data provider, but I will not touch it too much today. Depends on group. Depends on method. We can use group. Let's use the group now. Now always run first. So let's use group. So use group. We can use group. You can group your test. Let's say sanity test. I can call the sanity. Call the sanity test. There's one. Then I can call this one groups. E to E. What's going on? End-to-end. E to E. E to E test. So when you're using group, each group is undefined. What's the problem? Each test can have multiple groups, as you can have it. You can have multiple groups. I'm trying to get something, set something. Let's say something here. Default is 0. Depends on groups here. So for example, you could use the group attribute to group all your tests. This could be sanity. This is sanity test as well. Let me say group again. On this one, I say sanity. I can just put sanity as well, like this. And sanity is E to E. What do we have? And functional. Let me say functional. Integration. Let me say integration test. Yeah. So you could add as many labels as you want. It's just like adding label to your test. So this one could now belong to all the group. It depends on how you want it. It depends on the function they are performing in your test. This could belong to what's happening here. This could belong to E to E and also belong to, let me put it this way. This could belong to E to E, E to E, sanity, belongs to sanity. It could belong to integration. Yeah, I guess I'm running this test. This is getting longer now. So we have used priority. You could label all your groups. So you can see now, this test belongs to one group, which is sanity. This belongs to sanity as well. So this can belong to sanity and let's say integration. So This belongs to sanity and integration. So this is integration and end-to-end, sanity integration, and this one sanity alone, and this one group E2E sanity integration. You see, so in our test engine, which I won't go there today, I could add a group to run, and it will run it for us, calling its group name, and it will run the group. So you could add a group, it will run the group name for us, and it will run the group name that we want to run in there. So you could add so, and they will all run. So if it's a sanity, it will run this yeah, sorry, yeah. So, and we can run them from calling them from this point, from the annotations. But the group, we are not doing it now, but the group annotation, it helps you to label your test. So that if, for example, your test depends on, you want to rerun your test or there's a problem, you can just run single group. If, for example, you want to run E2E sanity, you don't want to run integration, you can just specify that in your TestNG and run those groups together. And they will all run. They will all run as you specify the group name. That's what label does. That's how label is being used inside this place. So we touch one more before we call it a day on this. We touch the priority, we've done about description, then depends on group. So we can do descriptions. So let me go again with this, yeah, description. So you can use this as well. You can use this. You can use description. Description, times I can say to describe this test, multiplication, just to write it. So with that, you just have, it makes your test more well organized, and that's the work of testing you, well organizing everything the way you want it, the way organization will see it, or whoever is running your test later. Yeah, the reason why I didn't run is because it's not running from here, because I have to run it from the TestNG as a group. So it's running. So where's the result? So that's how you use, we've used priority enabled groups, we've used descriptions as well. Then depends on method. Let me add one more, depends on method. Yeah, let me use depends on method. Yeah, what it does, depends on method. You can see depends on method and depend on group, they're almost the same thing, just tended towards the same thing. If I say depends on group, that means whatever group, let's say this test, if this test needed another group to run, I will use depend on group and mention the group there. If this test, for example, addition, let's say, for example, you're trying to create an account and verify if user is, you're trying to log in and verify if user is already registered. So what you need to do before you can log, you have to verify. The login test need to depend on registration test to make sure that the user is already registered in the account. If not so, it will not run. That means that is preconditions. You must have been registered on the site before you can perform login. Valid credentials. So if I say this method depends on what method? What's the name of this method now? This one. Let's say it depends on this method name, this is what you use. So I've used it here. I said this method depends on this method here. You can see that means if this method fails, the method we are depending on fails. If the method fails, it will not run. If I fail this method now, let me see, 2, I just put 22. There will be a problem. Let me run this. You can see test was not found. That was what caused the problem. Exactly. That was exactly what caused the problem. Let me bring it back to 2. So so let me so that's all depends on works. Depends on you. If your method depends on something to works, that's how it works. That's how you use it. So but you have to be careful using dependent, because a lot of times you might tests should be independent of each other. That's how it should be. You could see how it messes up the run because I use a dependent, because they have to depend on each other to run. As much as possible, best practice is to make sure your texts are much independent from each other. So I will have to stop here because of my time today. Using TestNG, we've been able to achieve at least some attribute in it. I will continue from here next using data provider and other ones, just few ones remaining. So data provider and data and parameters. And I use the parameter here. If you look at this test, you see how I use the parameter in this test case. In the test case, this is this one. You can see now in this place. See my parameter. This is how I use a parameter on any method you want. This I use a parameter to pass the browser name coming from config this place into that place. There's a browser name. Browser name is to pass the browser name in my TestNG here, which is Chrome. You can see parameter name browser. So I name it in the front end there, browser. Here, then I pass the value at the runtime. You see, Chrome. If I change this value now to pass, say Firefox, it will boot Firefox for us. It will run our test on Firefox, and that's where we're going to stop today. See, it's loading Firefox now. Gecko drive, you can see we're on Firefox. Look, yeah, loading everything the same, perform the same thing in Firefox. So that's how you use parameters. So one test is failing Firefox. So it could be some things on the browser. So with this, I'll call it a day in this class today. Thank you for staying through to the end. And our next class, we're going to cover parameterization, data provider, and create testng.xml. Thank you very much for staying to the end.